there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I've got some fun crafts coming your way. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some Farmhouse fall pillow dupes, so let's get started with project number 1. For this project, I just taped 4 pieces of cardstock together. You can do it freehand if you want, but the pillow size is 21.5 inches in length and 15 inches tall. And I used some Waverly brand fabric from Walmart. You're going to cut 2 pieces. It's kind of like a duck cloth, and you can certainly use duck cloth if you want. Now, I just selected a text. I printed off letters, kind of block letters that were 6 inches in height and about 3 inches in width. And this is supposed to spell the word fall, but of course you really, to save ink, only need to, print one L and, use it twice. So cut out whatever letters you choose. And then I'm going to be using this fabric I got from JubileeFabrics.com. I'll link it down in the description box. And I'm going to use some fleece. You could use fleece, felt, batting. I just grabbed this. It was on top of the pile. You don't have to use anything if you don't want. And then I'm going to use 2. I'm going to double up my fabric, but you really only need to use 1. Okay, but I'm doubling my fabric and then using fleece because I want it to look really puffy. So go ahead and, of course, pin your letters to your fabric and or fleece and get those cut out. This pillow looked really easy when I saw it, and I just thought it would be fun. And of course, with all my pillow dupes today, I changed them up a little bit. I lindified them, and for each pillow, I'm trying to choose a different way for you to get your quotes onto your pillows so that, you've got options whether or not you have an electronic cutting machine or anything like that. Now, I'm taking this fleece and I'm actually cutting it down. I cut it out with the fabric to get me my shape first, and now I'm cutting each fleece letter down about 1/4 inch all the way around because I want it a little bit smaller than the actual fabric, and this is what it looks like. Okay, and there's a reason for this. It's to help make it look a little bit more puffy on our pillow. Using Beacon Fabri-Tac glue today, I'm going to go ahead, if you're a gluer, go ahead and glue your fleece onto your fabric. All right, and then you can go ahead and lay your pieces onto your main pillow, whether you're using fleece or not. If you're a gluer, go ahead and glue those pieces onto your pillow, okay? Whether you're using 1 piece of fabric, 2 pieces of fabric, fleece, whatever. If you're a gluer, get them glued on. I am going to start out by gluing my 2 pieces of fabric together, of course, to keep them together. And then I'm going to come in and glue the felt onto the back of them, okay? So whichever way you're doing this, get it done and get it glued onto your pillow. Get it centered onto your pillow, right to left, top to bottom. And I want to add some hand sewing to this to give it a little fun country stitch. The actual pillow that I am duping doesn't have this hand stitching. It only has it along the outer edges of the pillow, but I thought it would be cute to add it to the letters as well, just to kind of bring it all together unified and fun. So once I have everything on here, my one felt I accidentally added glue to the wrong side, so I'm having to let that set a little bit. Once I get everything glued together, again, measurement top to bottom, right to left, in between your letters, get it centered, and then go ahead and get your letters glued down if you haven't already done so, all right? I just kind of like to let the gluers know you can get it going. If you're a sewer and you got to kind of get everything on there first, get it glued on there first. And then let's start the sewing process. I'm going to use this crochet thread from Walmart. It's a cream color. It's a size 3. They have different sizes. I usually go for size 3 or 5. I'm going to use a doll needle or a yarn darner needle because they have a bigger eye opening for that thickness of that crochet thread. Either one doesn't matter. That crochet thread's like $2.97. And then those doll needles or yarn darner needles are under $2. So you're going to put it through your needle and not one end, your other end of thread is hanging loose. You only need your top piece of fabric, not your bottom, okay? And then we're just going to make some stitches. So you're going to come from the back side, those of you that are beginners. Maybe start at the bottom of your letter here, okay? Put your needle through the back side of the fabric and the fabric of your letter. till you reach the end of your knot. Pull that thread all the way through. You're going to come about a 1/4 inch away, straight across from where you came out, and you're going to poke your needle from the front to the back. And this is one of the reasons why our felt is a little bit skinnier all the way around, so we don't have to come through so much fabric. And when we put the stitches in and around, it'll make it look puffier. Once you make that stitch across from the front to the back, pull it through all the way through the back side, and you've made your first stitch. Okay, you're going to come from the back to the front, about a 1/4 inch away again, staying in line with your other stitch. You're going to pull it all the way through till your thread comes to a stop. Then you're going to make another stitch about a 1/4 inch away and go from the front to the back. You're going to pull it all the way through till your thread comes to a stop. All right, then we're going to go upward. Once we pull this thread through, all right, we're going to come up and do the same thing. We're just coming around the perimeter of our letters, and we're going to do this same process all the way around. So if you're a gluer and you want to add the stitching, you've never done it before, it's pretty simple. This is what one letter looks like when it's done, and I'm going to do this process through all the rest of the letters, and here it is, completely complete. And I love how all the little threads are hanging off and everything, because I think it gives it a fun country look. Now, gluer or sewer, I'm going to take my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. I'm going to start on the left short side, glue it all the way, about a 1/2 inch from the edge. I'm going to go along the top, glue that whole top edge, come down the right side, glue that whole right edge, and then at the bottom, I'm only going to come about 3/4 of the way, so I leave an opening to stuff it. Okay? Now, you can choose to do this with your sewing machine if you want. Then you're going to go ahead and stuff your pillow. Now, as you can see, I left all my pillow edges out around the outer perimeter. That gives it a fun farmhouse look, and the dupe was like that as well. So once you get your stuffing into your pillow and stuffed as fat as you want it, go ahead and close that opening with your glue or by sewing machine. All right, just kind of closing this, holding it closed till my glue sets up for a little bit. And then I'm going to start in with some stitches just like we did around the letters. Nice long piece. I'm sorry I'm off camera here a little bit. I'm starting in a corner. I split the 2 pieces of fabric apart. And from the front to the back, I'm pulling my needle through the back piece of the pillow only, pulling it all the way through till my knot hits that fabric, okay? Then I'm going to hold both pieces of fabric together, and I'm going to come from the back to the front and pull my needle through both pieces of fabric, okay? Then I'm going to come from the front back and forth, and I'm going to do a pleating motion on this time. I'm going to pleat my fabric back and forth on my needle about a 1/4 inch apart, maybe 3 times or so, and I'm going to pull it through, and it's going to give me nice even stitches, and I'm going to do this process all the way around the perimeter of my pillow. If you don't want to hand sew, like I said earlier, and you're a sewer, you can take it to your sewing machine and sew around it. Okay, and this is what it looks like. Again, I'm going to go all the way around. I'm going to meet you here near the end. So I'm coming to the last stitch here, making that last stitch. I'm going to open up where we started again, right? Where we started that knot. I'm going to come through the back of the fabric pillow, of the pillow only, just like we did when we started. And I'm going to just grab that first stitch, and I'm going to run my needle underneath that. I'm going to make a loop, put my needle through that loop, okay? And just make a knot, pull it tight, cut off the excess. Done. And then I'm going to add a little glue here to keep it closed. All right. The pillow's almost done. Now, we left those raw edges out, so I want them to look raw like the letters. So I'm just going to come through. This fabric is nice and easy to grab the threads of the fabric and pull on it and fray the edges. And I'm going to do as much fraying as I want all the way around. Okay, this is what that looks like. Now, once this is complete, before we take a look at the final look, let's check out our dupe photo here. So our original pillow came from antiquefarmhouse.com in at $39. Our price was $3 with an out-of-pocket savings of $36, and that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 2. For this project, I'm using this fabric from JubileeFabric.com. I'll have a link down in the description box below for you. I just thought it was a real pretty orangey plaid. And I made a pattern, again out of cardstock, 19 inches long by 13 inches tall. All right, go ahead and cut out your fabric. You're going to need to cut 2. And again, it's just easier for me when I make even a rectangle pattern, if I just kind of tape cardstock together to cut it out, but you could totally just measure and cut it out freehand. Now I'm going to use some of this fabric, again from Walmart, this Waverly 100% cotton fabric. And those of you that, haven't been with me for a while, we're going to print on this fabric from our computer. Now, this works with my inkjet printer. I don't know about laser printers, okay? So what I like to do is I cut out a piece of fabric a little bit bigger than some typing paper here, and I take the spray adhesive and I spray the paper, and then I lay out my piece of fabric out onto my typing paper, and I make sure it's all nice and smooth. The process here is really easy. All right, and then what you need to do is cut out any excess fabric hanging off the edges of that typing paper. Now, also on the flip side, when you turn it over where you laid your fabric, if there's any paper exposed that doesn't have fabric on it, that's sticky, okay? You don't want that to stick to your printer rollers. You're going to gum it up, mess up your printer. So you want to make sure you cut that off. I was lucky. There's not much. It's just a tiny bit, but I'm still going to cut that off. And then I'm going to run this through my printer, however your paper runs through and prints out. Nice and easy, no rhyme or reason to it. Okay? Again, I've not used this on a laser printer. This technique works really well. When it prints out, this is what it looks like. Yes, I'll have a free printable for you. I'll have a PDF for you. And if you have an electronic cutting machine, you want to cut it out in vinyl, there'll be a PNG for you as well, but you're just going to need to clean out around and inside the letters. Okay? Now, once I've taken it off the paper, when you take it off the paper, it's not sticky or anything on the fabric side. I'm going to rip it down to the size I want it. Okay? And for your information, I ripped my fabric down to about a 6x9, okay? The quote's actually probably about a 5x8 size. All right, so once I go ahead, I'm just ripping all 4 sides because I want to get that frayed look all the way around. We're just going to place it in the center of our pillow, all right? We only need 1 sheet right now here, 1 fabric, so take your back piece off. And if you're a gluer, go ahead and glue down this quote onto your fabric, making sure you're even side to side, top to bottom. I'm going to go ahead and spot glue it down, okay, just to hold it in place. So just a little light gluing through the whole thing. And then I'm going to go ahead and use this. It's this Princess Yarn 100% acrylic. I got it at Dollar Tree. I like it. It works perfectly well. A lot of times I use this black crochet thread from Walmart, but if your Dollar Tree has this thread, get it. Ours had it in black and white. It works perfectly wonderful. $1.25. Of course, the crochet thread at Walmart's, under $3, but you save a little bit. And then I am going to just make some stitches all the way around it, just like we did on our first pillow. Okay? So again, you can go front to back and make single stitches like I'm doing here, about 1/4 inch apart. Remember, we already saw that process. Or you can pleat it back and forth. Again, here's the other option. Onto your needle, I pleat 3 or 4 times, and then pull your needle through, and then you have nice even stitches. I'm going to do that process all the way around. On the back side, once I'm done, I just kind of glued down the knot a little bit with some Fabri-Tac. Then we're going to turn it over, and this is what it looks like. Now, I know that you see a little bit of kind of coloration around the quote. That's because I used this Distress Oxide ink in Vintage Photo, and I just rub that on. Now, I know you're thinking, but if someone sits against it, it's going to rub on your clothes. It will not. It dries and stays, okay? Now, I want to put this pillow together. I don't want to fray the edges like the last pillow because I want to keep the focus of the fraying on the quote. So I'm putting right sides together on the fabric. Take your other back piece, lay it together, and if you're a gluer, go ahead and come on the left side, glue all the way up across the top, right side down to the bottom about 3/4, and leave that opening so that we can turn it and stuff it, okay? I'm taking mine to the sewing machine. Again, you're putting right sides together, your 2 pretty sides of your fabric together, okay? And then we're going to turn it inside out, and that hides our raw edges around the pillow, okay? Again, I'm doing this because I want to leave the attention on this center quote with the raw edges around it. But you don't have to do this. You could leave the raw edges out like we did on the first pillow. I'm doing each of these pillows differently and chose these specific pillows because they were all different. And you can mix or match however you want to put them together. But I wanted to show you all these different techniques. Okay, so go ahead and stuff your pillow as fat as you want it. And if you're a gluer, you're going to turn that opening in toward your batting, and then you're going to glue it together. All right, I decided last minute I wanted to add some buttons. Now, if you're a gluer, you can totally thread the center and then glue these down. All right, if you're a sewer, you could do the same thing, but I'm like, I want these sewn on for some reason. So I wanted to show you how if your pillow's almost all the way done and you have a small little opening, you can still actually sew these pillows onto your fabric, you know, if it was a last minute thought, as mine was, to add some buttons. So I'm taking that vintage photo ink and I'm inking around them because it kind of matches my pillow fabric. And I'm going to mark where I want each of my buttons to lay. And it's about 2 inches to the left of the quote. And I just kind of, you know, center them down that left edge. I'm going to bring my needle and thread in that opening and I'm going to come out right at the mark of that first button. Okay, again, you can thread your buttons in the center and glue them on. I just wanted to show you this process if you wanted to do it. Then I'm going to come through the button to the lower right because I have 4 holes, lower right hole of the button. I'm going to come into the fabric, kind of like I'm threading the button, and then I'm going to come over to the left side, straight across from that, and make a stitch and bring the needle back up. Hope that's understandable. And then I'm going to thread the remaining holes of the button, coming from the lower left up to the upper right, pulling it through, and then I'm going to come back into the fabric underneath the button anywhere in there. And I'm going to bunch up the fabric in my left hand and guide my needle down to where I made the next mark and pull my needle out through that mark. Okay, pull it all the way till your thread is tight. We're going to add our next button. Okay, making a diagonal stitch through the buttonholes, and we're going to do the same thing, a diagonal stitch with your thread, and then come straight across with your thread and needle. Come back up through your holes, and then come back under your button. Again, grab the rest of that fabric in your left hand, guide your needle to the next mark, and pull it all the way through. You're essentially just kind of threading your button onto the fabric. Again, if you don't want to go through this, you're like, lady, that's just too, I don't get it, whatever, then thread your buttonholes and glue it on, because we're actually going to do that on the 4th pillow. I just felt for some reason like I wanted to show you this process. If like last minute you wanted to add buttons, but you didn't just want to glue them on, you actually wanted to sew them on, okay? Once I get all of those on there, I'm just coming underneath the button through the opening of our pillow. I'm making a little stitch, and then I'm coming down till I make a little loop, and then I'm going to pull my thread through that loop a couple of times, pull it tight to make a knot, and cut off the excess. Then you can, you know, sew your opening closed. Those of you who are gluers, you're sitting here waiting for us to get done, and I'm just taking my thread that closely matches the fabric, and I'm just coming through the seam here, and I'm going, you know, from bottom to the top, pulling the thread up and over that seam. You can see how it kind of loops and it goes up and over that seam. Again, loop up and over that seam. And I'm going to show you up close here. Come from the bottom to the top, through those 2 pieces, and pull it over and around that seam. Okay, and you're going to just do this process all the way across. Now, when I get to the end and I do that last little stitch, I'm just going to come on the back side right here. I'm just going to make a tiny little stitch. You're not going to see it because the thread is so thin. I'm going to pull my thread till again I make a little loop, put my needle through that loop again. I'm going to pull it through just a couple of times, pull it taut to make the knot, and then just cut it nice and close to that knot. And let's look at our price comparison. So this came from Kirkland's in at $29. Our creation came in at $6 with an out-of-pocket savings of $23, and that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 3. I love this one. So we're going to use some of this macrame cord from Dollar Tree, and the fabric we're going to use, I'm going to use this kind of sweater fabric from Etsy. I'll have a link down below, and this kind of fuzzy from Hobby Lobby, but the shop that I got the sweater fabric has this fuzzy fabric, so I'll have the link to both of those. And then I made a free printable for you. Mostly I'm going to use the pumpkin part for this, but I do have the PDF and PNG for you in case you want to do this whole thing in vinyl or you want to do it like I'm doing it. The first thing you're going to need to do is just make a 15-inch diameter circle for your pattern, and you're going to cut 2 out of your main fabric for your pillow. Now, what I did is took the pumpkin part of the printable and I cut those letters out, and I cut 2 of each of those letters out of the fuzzy fabric. Okay, so I've got my last letter pinned to my fuzzy fabric. You can certainly do this with 1 layer of fuzzy fabric. I just wanted it more puffy looking. Okay, cut 2 out of each letter. All right, or 1. Now keep all of these letters if you want to go this next route. I wanted to give you another option. You can certainly use Beacon Fabri-Tac glue for this. It will work perfectly, but I wanted to show you this option of this heat and bond. It's iron-on adhesive. You can get it at Walmart. It's under $3, okay? It's really easy to use. It has kind of this textured side and a paper side. So I've got everything cut out, but I'll do 1 letter here for you. Go ahead and cut out 2 pieces for each letter if you're doing 2 layers. If you're doing 1 layer, you only need 1. Make sure when you layer it together, you don't put the textured side together. You put it paper side up on both layers. Otherwise, any heat in the room will stick that together because I had it happen. Then what you want to do is go ahead and trace your letter backwards onto your adhesive. Remember, paper side up, and go ahead and cut that out. All right, and then when you put these on your letters, I'm just getting them ready. Make sure that the textured side is on the back of your layer or layers of letters, okay? And you're going to do that all the way across. Then we're going to start ironing our adhesive onto the back of our letters. Okay, so turn your letter over to the back side, your fabric. Make sure your paper is up and your sticky side is down on the back side of your letter. You're going to hold it down for 2 seconds, and you're going to let that cool. All right, you're going to do that on all of your letters. Again, you could use Fabri-Tac, but some of you, if you don't have Fabri-Tac, this is definitely an option. It's a quick process and it works great. So while my paper is cooling, I am putting my pumpkin where I'm measuring it down near the bottom of my pillow. I'm going to go about 4 inches up from the bottom and then about 2 inches in from the side. So I'm just kind of figuring out where I want them. So now my paper is cooled, and you're just going to go and peel that paper off, leaving you that kind of shiny, sticky. Right? And then I'm going to lay them back into position. All right? I'm not going to iron any quite down yet. I'm just going to layer it in position, get them where I want to. Off camera, I'm going to measure them again and make sure I have it where I want it, getting that first layer down. Make sure it's straight across. I'm going to do the first and the last letter and pull the other letters off to make room for my iron. I'm going to go ahead and just iron on the 2 layers of sweater. It's fine. And this process, you're going to hold the iron down for about 6 seconds. So the initial process of 2 seconds gets it stuck on there. And then when you get it to your next fabric, permanently 6 seconds, that bond is good. And so then I'm going to just kind of back and forth layering my letters into position, but then I, pull them off. It just kind of helps me to figure out where it needs to be. And I'm just going to kind of do 1 letter at a time, bonding it to my fabric. And then while I've got the first 2 letters started, I'm going to peel off the paper from my top layer and go ahead and put that top layer over the bottom letter layer and go ahead and iron those into position. Okay, again, 6 seconds. Again, you can have 1 layer or 2 layers, just makes it look more puffier. But I wanted to really show you this iron-on adhesive because it's inexpensive and it works great if you don't have a fabric glue. So I'm going to do this process all the way across for all of my letters, okay? Once that's done, we're going to work on the hello. So you can use the printable carbon paper and draw it onto your pillow if you want. If you need to follow a pattern, I'm just going to freehand it with that macrame cord, just kind of using the printable as a guide to kind of get the fun of the cursiveness of the letters onto my pillow. Once I've got it where I want it, I'm going to kind of cut off this end here. I'm going to smush that right in because the one on the H is smushed, and I think that's cute. And then I'm going to come in. I am going to use the Beacon Fabri-Tac glue here, and I'm going to glue that hello word down. I'm going to spot glue it first and then glue the rest of it down. I do want to say this on the iron-on adhesive because I don't think I mentioned it before. When you're cutting your letters out around that adhesive and stuff, make sure that you trim off any excess of that iron-on adhesive around your letters before you iron it on, or you will see that. So when you trim that iron-on adhesive around your letters and you're cutting that adhesive out, and then you take it and you glue it to the back of your letter, cut off any excess that's hanging off before you iron it down onto your main pillow fabric. Okay, so I hope that's understandable. I forgot to say that the first time because you don't want to really see that excess, adhesive around your letters. All right, once my hello word is glued on, I'm going to glue my pillow into place. If you're a sewer, you can sew it down. I'm going to come down about a 1/2 inch and I'm going to glue my pillow. The original pillow is sewn around it, but I want to lindify it. I'm going to glue around it, again, about a 1/2 inch in, gluing it all the way around, leaving an opening to stuff it because I want to come in and make hand stitches around it like we did on our first and second pillow. I thought that would give it a more cuter kind of country look. So once I've got the glue set here, I'm going to go ahead and stuff my pillow as fat as I want it to be. I like my pillows really, really fat with stuffing. And then I'm going to glue the remainder of that opening closed. If you're a gluer, this is your process. You're done once you do this. If you want to add hand stitching, great. If you're a sewer, you've probably already got it sewn closed. But I'm going to come in with some cream color crochet thread. I'm going to start with a stitch. I'm going to open up a seam and I'm going to run my needle through the top layer of that pillow only till I reach the end of my knot. And then I'm going to just kind of smush it back together. And then I am going to do, we've already done this process, I'm going to do the pleating action of running my needle through the pillow fabric all the way around to make those cute little hand stitches. Now when I come to the end where I started, I'm going to finish my last little stitch. I'm going to open up where I started with that first knot. You'll be able to feel that knot between the layers. And I'm going to bring my needle through the back layer of that fabric only. You can see where I've come through between the layers. And I'm just going to make a little stitch in a stitch that's already there. Pull my needle through till I have a loop. Then pull my needle through that loop, the thread, and make a knot and cut off the excess. And then I'll go ahead and glue that closed. Now, I'm going to take some sandpaper here because it's sweater material. It's like 120 grit sandpaper. It works great. And I'm going to sand along the edges as much as I want till I kind of distress that sweater fabric because you're not really going to be able to pull on thread. So sandpaper and sanding around that edge actually works really well. So once I've got it where I like it, let's take a look at our comparison. So again, we're coming in with a Kirkland dupe. Their pillow came in at $29. Our pillow came in at about $6 with an out-of-pocket savings of $23, and that makes this project complete. Let's move on to our last project, number 4. For this project, I'm going to be using 3 fabrics. The one on the right is the Waverly brand cotton one I always use from Walmart, and then the other 2 I will have links down below for them, Jubilee Fabrics and an Etsy shop. So for the Walmart fabric, you need to cut one piece at 13 inches in length, 15 inches tall. Okay, one piece. For the left side, you want 9.5 inches in length, 15 inches tall, one piece. However, I'm going to cut two pieces because of the thickness of the Walmart fabric. That's just preference, but you really only need one piece. The back fabric, one piece, 21.5 inches in length, 15 inches tall. Okay, we got our three pieces. Now, you're going to take your right piece, line it up with the back fabric on the right side, and your left piece, the top pieces, line it up with your back fabric on the left side, and you're going to see there's about an inch overlap here. Okay, that's on purpose. That's so when we combine the two pieces, they will match up to be the same length as the back piece. All right. So for gluers and sewers, I'm giving you a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So if you're a gluer and you glue both of these pieces together, I need you to come down and glue about a 1/2 inch. All right, about a 1/2 inch down, that's where you're going to glue both pieces together. If you're a sewer, of course, you're going to come down and sew about a 1/2 inch. All right, so here I am sewing my two pieces together. This pillow is fun, and I kind of like how it turned out. Now, here you can see it sewn. I'm going to open it up, turn it around, open both pieces up, and I'm just going to iron that down to make it flat. And I'm going to lay this top piece with your shorter piece to the left, your bigger piece to the right, and I'm going to lay it on top of our bottom piece of the pillow, lining up those side edges. Now, if you've glued or sewn this together and your top piece is just a little bit shorter than your bottom piece, no big deal. Just trim that bottom piece to fit the top piece. It's not the end of the world, I promise. So for this, I've made you another free printable. I have cut mine out with my electronic cutting machine. I'm using iron-on vinyl. I made the printable two different designs with the words connected, not connected. If you don't have electronic cutting machine, your option, we've already done it. You can print it out onto fabric and you can glue it or stitch it onto your pillow. This is why I've done all these different options today, all right? I was going to just iron this onto that piece, but I decided I want to iron it on, but make it look like that Hey There pumpkin pillow. So I've created a little pattern, 6.5 inches tall, 10 inches in length, and I'm ripping my fabric to that size, and it's the same fabric that I have on my pillow right now. I want it kind of tone on tone. Now I'm going to go ahead and iron on my vinyl onto that fabric piece. I know my towel's horrible. It's kind of my craft towel, but it's clean. I'm going to iron that onto there. Some of you don't have electronic cutting machine. You printed it onto your fabric, remember? And now I'm going to go ahead, if you're a gluer and you've decided to do this option, you have electronic cutting machine or you don't, you can go ahead and glue this on, and you can stop there if you want, or you can add stitches around it just like we did on this pillow. And at this point it's easy to do, obviously, because we haven't attached both main pillow pieces together. As you can see, I'm sewing mine on here, and I really like that I use the exact same color choice for the quote as the fabric that I'm sewing it onto, because I think it gives it great texture without like making it stand out too much. And I did use the color thread as the plaid on the left side, and that double border, I think it just makes it look nice. Once this is all complete, we don't want our edges out on this pillow. We want it to look nice, so flip your whole top piece over onto your bottom. And then if you're a gluer, I always start on the left side. You glue up the left, across the top, down the right, and about 3/4 of the way on the bottom, or whatever pattern you should so choose to glue in, leaving that opening to be able to turn your fabric and stuff your pillow. Of course, as you see here, I am going ahead and sewing my pillow together in that same fashion of gluing. All right. Once that's complete, go ahead and turn your pillow right side out. Now, I like to use like a chopstick because it's a little bit blunter on the end. You can use a skewer, end of a paintbrush handle, and I poke it in the corners to get the corners all nice and, pointy. And then once that's ready to go, you can go ahead again, stuff it as fat as you want your pillow stuffed. All right. I love the colors of this pillow. This one and then the round one we did, I think, are my two favorites. So we'll see what y'all think. Now, if you're a gluer here, go ahead, as we've done the other ones that we sewed together like this, turn your edges in toward your stuffing and glue across to close it. I'm going to come in just as I have done before with a needle and thread, and I'm going to hand stitch up and over that seam to get my pillow closed. Now I want to add some buttons here. I've got 3 buttons, just like we did that one. We've closed everything up. We can't sew them on, so this is your option of getting these buttons on here. I'm taking some really thin, just white twine here, and I'm threading my holes here. I'll do this on all 3 buttons, of course. And like I said earlier on that one that we sewed it through, this is your option if you don't want to, take the time to sew your buttons on. You add your thread, and then you glue them on. Nice and easy, just like I mentioned before like 5 times, but I'm reminding you again. Once I get my buttons all twined up, I'm going to go ahead and glue them on. I glued them about 3 inches apart and maybe about a 1/2 inch to the left from that seam. We'll take a look at the comparison photo. Now, I will say honestly, on the comparison, I actually like the fleece plaid fabric on the original pillow, but I looked and just couldn't find anything I liked. But Kirkland's came in at $29. Ours came in at $10 because our back piece of our pillow, a little more expensive in price, but that still saved us $19, and that makes this project complete. I hope you enjoyed all of our projects we did today. I know we made 4 instead of the usual 3, but it did make the video a little longer, so I hope you'll forgive me. Please give this video a thumbs up. It helps my channel to grow, and share this video if you would like. If you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out and you're digging what you saw, before you click off, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. And please leave me a comment down below and let me know which pillow you want to make right now. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Matthew 14:28 in the Bible says, "And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." So, with the scripture, we have always learned and discussed that when Peter says that to Jesus, it's more out of faith because he wants to make sure it's Jesus. But as I looked at this scripture this time around, it made me think of having the strength and the courage to step out on the water, knowing that whatever happens or comes your way, Jesus has his hand extended to help you through it. It's not faith in knowing if it's Jesus, it's faith in knowing that Jesus will help you through. So stepping out onto the water and coming to the Lord in all of life's circumstances is the way you must face what comes your way. Even if fear of the unknown presents itself, you must initially decide to take that step in his direction. You must always be willing to take your hopes and dreams as well as your tragedies or your fears and walk to the Lord on faith. Your mind must conclude that he is in control, and you must try not to question the validity of his authority or his will for your life. You must be willing to step out of the boat, even if you're unsure of what lies ahead, onto unsteady waters, to seek the stability of all God has to offer you for your life. Grasp hold of his extended hand, knowing that his ways are good and they are always for your benefit as he steers you toward the ultimate goal. It may be difficult to break the cycle or break the bond with your tangible, physical, well-thought-out plans and goals, but God's ways are higher than your ways, and he will always have your best interest at heart. Indeed, you could try taking that water walk without the assistance of his help, but the end game probably results in some kind of slip beneath the rippling tides. Your failure may not allow you to receive all that God has for you when you're trying to determine your own successful venture without his guidance. But if your own pursuit does tend to result in some kind of failure, thank goodness God loves you enough to provide an alternative plan toward the goal he has for you. If you fail, God extends his hand to help you back up. He is always your guide in the sea of life. You just must be willing to mentally step out of the boat, hear his command, and place your feet upon the waters. You absolutely will not fail with God being your guide. You will not sink or stumble with his hand extended. He will uphold you with all of his strength. Have the courage to set and accept the goals and plans God has for you. Don't be afraid of the direction he may lead you. Transform your pattern of thinking into receiving what is good and acceptable from God, and seek his perfect goal for the circumstance you are in. It's time to lay down your dreams, your visions, your heartache at the feet of Jesus, and allow his grace to lead you and guide you to him on the water, without fear, knowing he will keep you supported and firmly balanced without wavering as you keep your eyes steadily fixed on him all the way to the finish line. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.